Let's go ahead and dive right into today's topic. Once again, we'll be talking about navigating earnings season in Deepvue and the different functionality that we have built in to make that easier. So we'll be covering a wide variety of different things from a few different kind of feature sets here. But to start with, thinking about earnings season, we obviously want to know when the earnings dates of stocks that we're interested in are. So in Deepvue, we have these handy flags over here within your data columns that show up next to symbols in either deep lists or in your screen results. And they are bright red if the earnings date, the estimated earnings date, is coming up pretty soon, such as this week or within the next few days. And they're also gray if they're still coming up, but they're a little bit further out. So these will pop up automatically. 100% always double check, especially for your holdings when companies are supposed to report. But this gives you a great heads up about when a stock is supposed to report. You can hover over it and it'll see, you can see the earnings date as well as whether it's after market close or before market open. It'll be AMC for after market close and BMO for before market open in this hover note. So I really like these earnings flags. They're a great quick way to know, when companies are supposed to report. Another way that you can do that and check that out in Deepvue is you can create a screen that looks for earnings reports the next week. So we'll go ahead and load that up and walk through the different criteria. So if we edit this, and let me zoom in just a little bit here, you can see that there's just two criteria here, and definitely you can tailor this to how you would like it. But basically, in Deepvue, you can set an earnings next date feature and have it be a range. So today I set it as the next week, and it starts this week, October 26th. I also extended it to November 10th to see, the end of this week as well as the next week, what companies are reporting. And you can see over here on the left-hand side, these are the results. We've got Apple reporting here after market close of November 2nd, a few ones a little bit more of a ways out. But it's a great way to see, what companies are coming up in the future that are within our system. Neo, if you go to this chart and open up the data panel, I've got the next earnings date as my top column here, and you can see they're supposed to report November 9th, and I'll show you how to set this up in just a minute. I think it's actually there in the default set as well. And Mike, adds some context here. Gray flags 8 to 14 days out. Red flags over here on the left hand side when it's within 7 days or less. So once again, bringing up this screen, this is really handy to find this data point. You basically want to type in earnings date. Let's bring that up, and you can either set it after, before, or like I have it, I've got it being a range, October 26th to November 10th. If you give this a click, you can, if you click the dates, actually, you can select last month, last week, next week, next month, and also select the different dates here. So I like to select it pretty much the next 2 weeks out, and I find that that's super helpful for keeping track of upcoming earnings. You can also do earnings time of day if you would like, confirmed, estimated, all of that. But there's a handy screen, and I do have a qualifier on here that I need the liquidity to be over 20 million just to get rid of any of the lower liquidity stocks. But definitely you can switch this up to a trend criteria, a relative strength criteria, or increase this, lower this, however you would like to. But the key data point that I wanted to highlight that we have is this earnings date feature where you can select the range of earnings dates. All right. So with that said, let's move on to the data panel here, and let me zoom out just a tad. Over here on the right-hand side, I believe it's also in the default set, but I have it set up in my data panel as well. I also add that earnings date to my stocks. So when I'm going through different charts, I can see right away whether they're going to report, far ways down the line or it's more upcoming. And to add that data point, what you want to do is basically click this plus button and type earnings date and check that box. And you can organize it however you would like to. Again, these are all drag and drop. I like having it front and center just so I always keep that in mind. And again, to open up the data panel, you want to click this icon, and you can see that earnings date right there. All right, so let's say now we've kind of covered, upcoming earnings. How do we find that? We've got the flags. We've got a handy screen to look for that as well. Let's say we're interested in a stock that's reporting today. How do we basically, um, you know, take stock of what that stock is reporting? So we've got the stats table down here. If it's not open, you can click this icon right next to the data panel, and you can see that it pops up right here. For instance, let's bring up Amazon, which reported today. And you can see September 1, or it was reported today. That's the date here. And you can see that we've got a beat here of 45%, the reported, the estimate, as well as the surprise, both in terms of percentage, as well as the surprise in dollars. So this, in just one quick hover, gives you a great kind of context about how Amazon did on their earnings report. They beat earnings by quite a ways, by 45%. If the dollar amount is also helpful for you, we've got there, and you can also hover over the sales and see kind of that exact same functionality, whether they beat or surprised on the sales numbers. So it's a quick and easy way to analyze the report. Obviously, you can dive deeper into the report if you want to, but for many growth traders, this is sufficient. And that's this surprise number, the percent surprise, is a really great metric to look at. And a lot of runs start because of a huge surprise, and that can often lead to those gap ups and then corresponding trends after the gap up. All right. So, and just to let you guys know, the update cycle for this, as soon as a stock reports, we have this updated within a few minutes. That's pretty typical. And if you see it longer than that, definitely let us know, and we'll make sure to check in with that and set up a process to make it as quick as possible, because we understand that this data is pretty critical, especially for people who like to trade after hours. And this is really critical data. So let us know if you see any bugs with that. With that said, when a stock reports, you can also check up the post-market action in Deepvue, and you can also chart it as well. What you want to do is navigate down here, and let me close my data panel and open this up somewhat. What you want to do is basically go down here and switch from regular to extended on this toggle, and this incorporates the post-market price action. You can see Amazon moved up after hours, and we can X this out, and we can even go down to a 5-minute chart, 1-minute chart, whatever you'd like to, and watch the stock price action in real time. So this is a really awesome feature in Deepvue, watching the post-market price action. We rallied initially, pulled back, and then I believe the earnings call, there was some positive news that came in here, and you can see the corresponding trend here. So this allows you to trade, if it's your style, post-market, and watch the earnings reactions in real time. And of course, we've also got pre-market post-price action if that's your style as well. So that's how to basically analyze a earnings report in real time. And pretty much the last thing I wanted to show you guys was a few different screens to basically analyze the earnings from a screening perspective and look for potential candidates. So let's go ahead and X out this. Let's go back to a daily chart, switch back to regular mode here, and let's run through the screen that I created, which was for EPS Surprise. So like I said previously, EPS surprises are super critical. They can often lead to gap ups or gap downs if it's a negative surprise. And I create a screen here that you guys might find useful that does a good job of looking for these type of moves. So first, EPS growth latest quarter. So what's been reported has to be greater than 30%. The EPS surprise, the latest quarter. So the surprise on that earnings report also has to be greater than 30%. And keep in mind, you can definitely change this to whatever metrics you would like. But this is what I came up with here. I've got a liquidity threshold, as well as, in the past month, the AS score has to be greater than 75. You can change this as you would like to. But zooming out, this catches some really good earnings movers. For instance, we've got AMP, which if we take a look on this earnings report, on the latest one, was up 700. The surprise was 746%. You can see how it's done since this gap up. And even this number, we don't have the surprise numbers here, but this gap up on really strong earnings over 200% led to this beautiful trend. So really keeping track of these earnings movers, the stocks that are reporting really strong numbers over 30, 40, 50, 100%, as well as EPS surprise numbers. That's critical as well. This can lead to some really nice trends right here. And on the flip side, of course, if a stock misses or misses expectations, I know EMPH today miss expectations, that can cause those drop downs, basically gap downs here and start some negative trends. So always keep in mind here and look out for those stocks really knocking it out of the park, either with surprises or with really strong numbers. Let's see. Also wanted to show another way to scan using earnings and sales growth, looking at those numbers. So let's go to Screener Presets, Deepvue, and go to Deepvue Leaders. And let's go ahead and show the nuts and bolts of the screen here and focus more on the earnings and sales numbers. So this is just another example of, after a lot of stocks have reported, how can you find and narrow down to the stocks with the really strong reports, either great earnings growth or sales growth. So this is an OR group here. This is a key component of the Deepvue Leaders screen. And you can see that within this OR group, I'm looking for either earnings growth, the latest quarter over 20%, the estimate for the next quarter to be over 20%, or the surprise number to be greater than 40%. And then I also have sales growth greater than 20%, or the estimates for sales growth to be greater than 20%. So what's really awesome about Deepvue is you can scan for these estimates as well. And that's a really great way to look for future expectations, which is primarily what stocks trade upon. And this is a great way that we've incorporated into the Deepvue Leaders screen, which shows kind of the best of the best stocks based on traditional kind of trend, relative strength, as well as earnings and sales growth. So that's another idea for you guys to make use of the earnings and sales data here in Deepvue. All right, and also wanted to highlight here, let's go out here. Pretty much for most stocks, we have guidance and estimates going out for 10 or so quarters, both on a earnings as well as sales basis. And this is really awesome. Again, stocks trade based off future expectations. So being able to see the expected growth, whether it's going to grow very strongly, the guidance revisions, if there's an up arrow, it's been revised upwards. If there's a down arrow, it's been revised downwards. As well as you can see, we highlight acceleration with these blue bars. And if you see a pink bar down here, it's marking deceleration. So this is what I really like to see when it comes to the Deepvue stats here, is the next 4 or so quarters, what's the growth supposed to be? Because we all know that what's in the past, and stocks can do tremendously well when the most recent quarter was negative, because in their earnings call, they upped their guidance, they were bullish, they were positive, and said that there are a lot of contracts coming, and that's what increases this guidance and what actually moves the stock in the future. For instance, if we bring up Meta, I believe this was a turnaround. You can see that during this trend, it was actually pretty negative in terms of earnings and sales growth, but recently it's improved. And after the most recent call yesterday, the guidance has actually improved right away. And of course, the market also has to agree with the fundamentals. All right, so that's pretty much it when it comes to the key functionality when it comes to earnings that I wanted to highlight here in Deepvue. Just a quick highlight. Again, you can look at the EPS flags to get a sense of when stocks are reporting. You can use a screen to also look for the next week or the week after that, what stocks are supposed to report. And also you can watch the post-market action using the extended hours charting as well as data, and also afterwards screen for EPS beats, strong earnings growth, strong sales growth, all of that. So definitely things you should make use of here in the Deepvue platform, especially during earnings season, which happens multiple times a year, and is a really critical time for either starts or ends of trends. So with that, I'll pause and I'll basically take some questions here. Fred asks, can you screen for the raised/lowered guidance? Not at the moment, I don't believe so, but definitely submit that as a feature request, because I would use that personally And I think that's a really good idea to be able to see, how much did they raise by, did they raise by, all of that. So yeah, Fred, definitely submit that as a feature request. That's a very good idea. Let's see here. On Thursday, is it possible to see Wednesday after market close and Thursday? All right, so you would basically like say P2D announced yesterday, you'd still want to see that info. I can see a use for that, Mike, definitely. So please submit that as a feature request. I think that's a good idea. Is a prize based off most recent revisions to earnings or prior to any revisions? So surprise is based on what the estimate was going into earnings. So what was the estimate, right up until the earnings report, and then it looks at what the reported numbers were, and that's how we calculate this percentage surprise or not. How are you scrolling the stats table? I'm on a Mac laptop here, so I'm just using 2 fingers to scroll back and forth. You would use your scroll wheel if you're on just a normal mouse. Paul asks, any plans on adding margins info? Yes, 100%. We're working on margins as well as return equity, all that stuff, and getting a lot more in depth with all the income sheets and that type of thing. So you'll be able to scan base all of that pretty soon. We're working that over the next few weeks or so. I think that's pretty much it for today. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and hopefully these are helpful sessions for you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys in Discord as well as on Twitter and Deepvue itself. So please let us know if you have any questions. Once again, you can navigate to the support menu down here. Report an issue, request a feature here. Send us an email if you have any trouble, any questions at hello@deepvue.com. And Tyler does an excellent job of answering questions in the chat as well. So thank you guys again. Yeah, Rick, awesome. Yeah, so thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care.